Today, I'm going to show you how to recreate this motion track and line motion from Google's new commercial. And I'm going to show you step by step how to make your own version using After Effects. My name is DJ from Eternal Visuals. Let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. To recreate the scenes for the commercial, I set up shots in my backyard and tried to match the framing as much as I could. I went online and found an SVG or vector file of the Google logo and search icon on Google Images and opened up After Effects. I created a new project, imported my footage, the Google logo and the search icon. I dragged my footage onto the timeline, went to each part of the timeline where there was a cut to another shot, and clicked the Edit Split Layer to create separate layers on the timeline. Now let's create our search bar. To start, I selected my pen tool and began to draw a line path where I wanted the search bar to go. I made sure to make the beginning line straight holding down Shift, then click and held to create smooth curved paths for the rest of the path. Once I had a line path I was happy with, I changed the fill to none and the stroke width to 8 pixels. With my layer selected, I searched for the word cap and changed the butt cap end to round cap to take the edge off. Then I selected the animate button and chose trim paths. In order to start off our search bar, I dragged the end property down to the length I wanted. Then went back to the animate button and chose offset path. Then increased the amount until I got the height I wanted. Then changed miter join to round join to create our search bar shape. To fade our search bar in, I hit P on the keyboard to open the position property, created a keyframe at 20 frames on the timeline, then moved back to the beginning, then moved the height about 100 points. I right-clicked the keyframes, eased in and out, then went to the speed graph and changed the curve to create an even smoother entrance. I went back to the timeline to 20 frames and hit T on the keyboard to open the opacity settings. I made a keyframe at 100%, went back to 5 frames on the timeline and dropped the opacity to 0. I eased in and out and then also adjusted the speed graph to match the fade in from the position settings. Now let's make our search bar fly. It's pretty simple. Our animation will happen between 2 seconds and 2 seconds and 10 frames for our first shot. Trim path keyframes will act for our movement and the offset path will act for the size. Drag your playhead to 2 seconds on the timeline and create a start and end keyframe. Then move 7 frames on your timeline and adjust the start and end percentages to create a C shape. If you don't like the path, you can always adjust it. Then move 3 frames to create a downhill shape that is just about to exit the frame. Go back to 2 seconds and create an offset path keyframe. Go to your C shape and increase the size by about 20 points. Then move to your last keyframe and increase the path size another 20. And that should do it for our search bar animation. Let's add our Google logo. Drag it onto your timeline and hit S on your keyboard to open the scale settings. Decrease the size to about 42%. I used a level effect to crush the shadows to make it white. Then using your select tool, make sure your logo is centered and hold Shift and move the logo above the search bar. Move your playhead past 1 second. Then in your layers panel, click the parent tab and select your line layer. Select both your line layer and logo layer and open the opacity settings. Click and drag to highlight your opacity keyframes from your line layer. Move your playhead to 5 frames and then paste your keyframes on your logo layer. Now your Google logo should fade in and match the movement for your search bar. To create the overlay effect, grab your pen tool and with your logo layer selected, create a 4-point mask below your logo at 2 seconds 7 frames, and then change the mask type to subtract. Create a keyframe, then move forward 1 frame as the search bar begins to cross over the logo. Move your mask onto the search bar lines. Keep moving forward 1 frame at a time and adjusting the position of the mask until the search bar clears the logo. Now let's move on to our second shot. Very similar process. Grab your pen tool and create a new line path. The end of the path should reach the center of the object you plan to create a border around. Once you're happy with your path, using the animate button, add trim path and offset path. Then create your movement through start and end keyframes. My movement begins at 2 seconds 11 frames and ends at 3 seconds 7 frames. I created a shorter search bar in the middle, then elongated it towards the end to create a more dynamic motion, along with having the offset path start out larger in the beginning and then bringing down the size to make it seem like it's traveling away from the camera. Once you have an animation you're happy with, grab your pen tool and create a new curved path around the object you want to track. Head to 3 seconds 7 frames and create a path keyframe. Move back one frame and begin to slowly compress your shape by flattening the curves. I made a total of 4 keyframes of adjusting slowly, moving its way back into the cylinder shape. Once you are content with the flow of movement, select your line shape and grab your pen tool. Then select the Tool Makes Mask icon and begin to draw a mask around where your search bar and object border meet. Change the mask mode to subtract and create a keyframe. Keep adjusting your mask until the two objects are separated. Select your search bar layer, grab your pen tool, select Tool Makes Mask again, and create the same type of mask keyframe to get rid of the last border so they morph together. Now your search bar should morph into the object shape. Now it's time for motion tracking. So we don't have to track more footage than we need. Go to the moment in your timeline where your object border is fully formed. Go to Edit, Split Layer. Now select your new clip, then go to Animation, Track Camera. The footage will begin to analyze. Once finished, you should have multiple track points. As you move your cursor around the frame, the camera track will begin to give you suggestions. It needs 3 points to create a solid track. Once you find one you like, click the 3 points, then right-click and select Create Null in Camera. This will create a null layer that you can use to parent objects to. For your object border, go to Edit, Split Layer where your border is fully formed. Then on your new layer, check off the 3D icon, then hit the Parent tab to select your new null layer. Because it's been adjusted to 3D space, you might have to reposition and scale your object to fit. And now your border object should follow your clip. For our floating text, I created new text layers, typed my desired text, then made position and opacity keyframes for them to fade in. Created a pre-comp as a grouped layer, then checked off the 3D layer icon and also parented them to my null layer. For the search icon, I dragged it onto the timeline, I decreased the scale, inverted the colors, and then changed the blend mode to screen. Then created a position path that followed the inside of the line movement. And there we have it. I had so much fun playing around with motion tracking and line motion on this. It can be used for so many creative applications. I hope you learned something today and can't wait to see you in the next one.